Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with a review of the Sony Xperia 5. People have been nicknaming it the Xperia 1 Compact because it offers many of the same features, albeit in a more compact format. So it's the fall flagship for Sony. They unveiled it at IFA 2019 in Berlin and it's time for a full review. The price tag should be around $750 to $800 and we still have the same triple camera setup as the Xperia 1, although moved from the center to the side. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the colors. It's available in black, red, blue or gray. This time it's got a 6.1-inch screen. It remains a narrow phone, easy to grip with a single hand, and people have been comparing it to a remote control yet again. 21:9 aspect ratio and a waistline of a mere 8.2 millimeters. It also weighs a very decent 164 grams. To be honest, among all the Snapdragon 855 phones out there, this has got to be one of the lightest ones. It's basically the Note 10 to the Xperia 1 if the Xperia 1 was a Note 10 Plus. Okay, the analogy is done. The materials are definitely premium. There is glass and metal with a gently curved screen to the sides, glass at the back as well. It draws a lot of fingerprints. It's also very slippery but very well built, and the metal frame has a glossy layer on top of it. I'm still not very happy with the placement of the power button, which is something I also objected about on the Xperia 1. So slippery and very narrow and easy to use with a single hand. Also IP68 certified, so it's dust and water proof. Okay, now we move on from the design, which is lovely but slippery, and on to the display. So this screen here is an OLED 6.1-inch with a resolution of 2520 over 1080 pixels and a 21:9 aspect. By the way, the Xperia 1 was a 4K phone. This one sticks to Full HD+. It's got HDR support, it's got DCI-P3 100% color calibration, and I think it's time to show you a video, which, by the way, we actually did using the Cinema Pro special app on the Xperia 1, and now we have gotten to using it as our typical test video. Now, as you can see, the colors are very vivid, the image is pretty crisp, brightness is okay. We got deep blacks and pretty nice contrast even in full sunlight. And that's about it. Also wide view angles. It's a bright screen, but it doesn't break records. So if you were to compare it, I don't know, to the Galaxy Note 10 or the iPhones from last year, wouldn't compare favorably. Now we did a bunch of tests, so let's see how those panned out. Okay, now the pixel arrangement here, this is how it looks like under the microscope. It's of the pentile matrix variety, and then we measured the brightness and achieved a top level of 448 lux units, which is definitely not the best in the world, but at least it breaks the usual barrier of 400 lux. Now with this value we actually managed to score more than the Galaxy S10 Plus and the Asus Zenfone 6. Still, we score below the Xperia 1 and its 472 lux units, and also below the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. Of course, there are several tweaks to perform here for the display. Some of you actually know them and appreciate them. We got the image quality settings, and here you can find useful stuff like the creator mode, which is here. There's the creator mode and also the standard mode and also the auto creator mode. There's video image enhancement and other things like that. Creator mode would be useful if you're a content maker and you really need an accurate setup of the colors. There's also white balance with options for warm, medium, cool or custom with RGB sliders. Plus auto rotate, phone size and all that jazz. In the end, a satisfying screen for video consumption. And now we go off to the other hardware settings. The CPU is definitely a powerful one. It's the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 accompanied by 6 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage plus microSD card slot. And I didn't encounter any sort of lag here. Obviously you can run Call of Duty Mobile without a problem, and any game for that matter. Aside from that, we also did a bunch of benchmarks. I won't insist too much on them. I just have to mention that in Antutu 7 we were placed first, for example, and we have quite a few of them, and you can see them here. This is, for example, a Geekbench. These are the scores achieved in Geekbench, and well, basically they're number one so far from the phones we've tested in Geekbench 503. Okay, other tests, well, the GPU one is here, Slingshot Extreme, and we got a score of 5315. With this one, we're actually third placed. We beat the Galaxy Note 10 Plus and the Xperia 1, not bad, and we score below the Zenfone 6 and OnePlus 7 Pro. In general, this phone is able to get to the top 5 or top 3 in the benchmarks department, so the performance is solid, even though it doesn't have the crazy 12 GB of RAM as some of the phones out there. Okay, so we're done with the performance, pretty much top 5, top 3 material, and now it's time to check out other things like the temperature. Now, this feels a bit like it has been sacrificed for the sake of performance. However, if you only go by the games, we only got as high as 33.4 degrees Celsius, which is okay, no overheating here in video games. However, in benchmarks, it went to 41 degrees Celsius, so it definitely wants to achieve high results. That's why it throttles the hardware all the way to the top. And we also have some thermal heat imaging shots of the phone with a special FLIR camera. You can see the top side a bit hotter than the bottom side, but with a decent heat dissipation. That's why the 41 degrees from the benchmarks were not a big problem for me, if I'm being honest. On the battery front, nowadays the 3140 mAh wouldn't be impressive, but Sony has a way of managing every ampere here. Let's see how we achieved and how we did the results that we did. So first of all, video playback, continuous in a loop. We achieved 15 hours and 47 minutes of continuous video playback. May as well be Netflix, which is very nice. It beats the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, the OnePlus 6T, and also the Google Pixel 3 XL. Let me turn down the brightness a bit. That's better. So once again, we beat the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, OnePlus 6T, and the Google Pixel 3 XL. But we score below the OnePlus 7 Pro, Zenfone 6, and the Galaxy S10 Plus for that matter. When it comes to continuous usage, you got the good old PC mark with a not half bad result, 12 hours and 40 minutes. Solid. Above OnePlus 7 Pro, above Huawei P30 Pro, and above the Galaxy A80. Still below the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, Zenfone 6, and Xiaomi Mi 9T. The charging was on the good side, 1 hour and 49 minutes for the full one, and after 1 hour you're already at 82%. Of course, this being a Sony device, you got your usual stamina modes and stamina features to prolong the battery usage. And also the battery care, so you can leave the phone to charge overnight without any worries about the battery health. Now, we are at the acoustic department, so we got a speaker at the top here and a speaker at the bottom here. Looks pretty menacing, this one. Promises good sound, but does it? Stereo speakers and a similar setup to the Xperia 1. Now, the actually listening experience, it was very loud. It can cover a conversation in a small room, and the vibrations are a bit distracting. As you know, Sony implemented a system of dynamic vibrations. They vibrate in tune with the music and in tune with the games and videos you're watching. The bass is, I would say, decent, but I've seen better on other devices, and the voice is very, very crisp. That's something to remember in the sound department. There is no audio jack, and weirdly enough, the headphones bundled with the phone have a 3.5mm connector, which you have to hook up to an adapter. There are also audio settings, which would be able to be found here somewhere. Okay, sound and advanced, and well, actually they're better found in the music app. Settings and audio settings. You got Dolby Atmos and DSEE-HX, which upgrades to an imitation of high resolution music. Now, once again, very loud, decent bass, okay voice and all that, but you have to remember something. The top speaker doesn't have any bass, and the volume is a bit on the low side, and the bottom speaker overcompensates a bit too much. So this one is too powerful and this one is a bit too weak. And we have the decibels to show that. We have a special tool, a special decibel meter, when we measure everything with it. So here we can see the 82 decibels. These ones were achieved with a sample with the top speaker, and the bottom speaker in the meantime is much more powerful than the 82. It delivers 93.6 decibels, excuse me, so it's a difference of 10 decibels between them, which is not good at all. If you take this into account, we're beating the Huawei P30 Pro and OnePlus 7 Pro, which is not bad. When it comes to gaming, it's actually decent and solid, 99.5 decibels, and it's superior to the Xperia 1, Google Pixel 3 XL, and below Huawei P30 Pro. The difference between speakers is a problem. They should be equal and offer the same volume and maybe a little bit more bass. The camera setup. Now, I will not insist too much on it. It's the same as the Xperia 1. 3 12 megapixel cameras moved from here to here, to the side. There's also an extra sensor here, the infrared one if I'm not mistaken, and an LED flash. So we got the 12 megapixel f1.6 optically stabilized dual pixel camera. There's a telephoto 2x optical zoom 12 megapixel camera, and the third one, the ultra wide 12 megapixel camera. And of course, they're all accompanied by the LED flash. We only have 4K 30 frames per second video capture here, but at least there's 4K HDR, and the front camera is an 8 megapixel one with electronic stabilization. And of course, we also have the Cinema Pro app for those cool kids who want to become Steven Spielberg, and you just saw earlier the result we produced with this app on the Xperia 1. Okay, so I guess it's time to go to the gallery. But before that, I want to highlight something. That something being that the interface of the camera app may give you some lag sometime, especially during the night time and when taking, well, heavier to pull off shots. And we also have bokeh, which is more software and less hardware. So here we go. So let me start off with the daytime photos as usual. It was a very hot day of October, that's what you have to remember. And you also have to remember that when I reviewed the Xperia 1, I was underwhelmed by it. I was underwhelmed by the ultra-wide camera, by the colors, and also by some of the videos. Anyways, this one kind of makes up for it. You can already tell we're dealing with pretty nice colors and also nice vegetation. Some of the phones out there, even the Huawei P30 Pro and even the Galaxy S10 Plus, have a tendency to overexpose and burn vegetation. Only sometimes. I wasn't very happy with the optical zoom. It's 2x optical zoom and I actually went past it, but the details were underwhelming. And I find that the OnePlus 7 Pro handles zoom much better. Now this is a wide angle shot, and in general the wide angle shots were okay on this device. They didn't deform the colors or the sides too much. Some deformation happens, but not every time. So this one is a regular shot, this one is an HDR shot. You can totally tell the difference. The sky is white. Now the sky is actually visible in normal colors here. In general, I was very happy with the color calibration. These are the fall colors, a bit of red and yellow starting to seep in to the green. Attempts at the bokeh and macro first, but more later on. A few more shots here. And on the selfies, I have to say they're not half bad. We're still using a pretty, I would say, old 8 megapixel camera. Nowadays, companies have moved to 2 cameras, maybe even 3 cameras in the near future. Higher resolutions, you see people putting 32 megapixel selfie cameras, so an 8 megapixel camera would seem like a compromise. Although selfies are not half bad, they actually remind me of the Xperia XZ1 and XZ1 Compact, which were solid in the selfie department even with lesser megapixels. Once again, HDR put to good use, another big plus for the phone. We have a lot of samples here, typical for the fall, autumn, or however you want to call it, and always the colors were on point. In general, it feels like an upgrade from the Xperia 1 with something like, I would say, as much as 20%. I even like the bokeh shots taken with the back camera, and not a big fan of the bokehs with the front camera. And anyways, it goes pretty close to the OnePlus 7 Pro level. The biggest drawback would be maybe the zoom, and that's basically it. And also maybe the selfie bokeh, but I'm not very sure of it. Bit more color here. The clarity is always spot on, not one shot was missed. And everything feels very crisp. And the lack of overexposure makes me very happy. Some attempts at bokeh here, from what I remember, not half bad. So in the end, it's a pretty solid phone, able to fight the latest OnePlus phones. This is the daytime photo capture. Now let's go to the low light. So I was pretty afraid of this test because during the nighttime, even the best phones out there may tend to struggle. Surprise, surprise, this one didn't. It catches some pretty nice colors, it can handle the lights okay, and even the ultra wide angle shots were fine in colors, in clarity, and the lack of deformation is pretty impressive. I'm talking about the sides being deformed, not the case. Excellent lighting, no deformation, excellent colors and texture of the building. Of course, not a lot of details. These are still 12 megapixel cameras, but they're on point. They're actually so good that I would even place this camera among the top 5 low light capture flagships from 2019, which is no small feat. And we have more of them taken at a local mall. These are nighttime shots, people, not daytime, so I'm pretty blown away by this. Quite the evolution from the Xperia 1. Can also fight the Galaxy S10 Plus, Huawei P30 Pro, and maybe beat one of them, not the P30 Pro. It can catch a top 5 easily in 2019. Okay, so I guess we're done with this. We're done with the whole photo thing. Quite the evolution from the Xperia 1. However, the video evolution may be a bit bigger. So we have a total of 16 videos here. Let me start with this one. Okay, so once again the colors are on point. The yellow, the greens and all that. The sky is a bit white. I'll acknowledge it. Okay, next up, stabilization test when walking around, descending a set of stairs. We already knew we had an optical image stabilization and also electronic one. Pretty nice change of exposure here. A bit of overexposure in this side. No flicker, I noticed. The image doesn't vibrate, so pretty nice stabilization when walking. I shot a lot of videos in 4K and those weren't too well stabilized. But still, pretty decent handling of the scenery. There's always a crisp image. Very nice clarity, solid colors, and also a very fast focus. Reacts pretty fast when I focus. Not that good of a zoom like we saw in the photo department, and here we actually have a whole test dedicated to the focus. It may seem fast, but in the end not as fast as the latest Samsung flagship. Still pretty fast. Okay, and selfie video, I'm a bit underwhelmed by it. It's actually a bit of mea culpa because I shot the video with the sun shining straight into the camera lens, but in the end, for an 8 megapixel camera, it would have to do. You're not going to become a vlogger with it, but it's decent for an 8 megapixel camera. We definitely need more. Not a big fan of the Full HD 60 frames per second video. It shows the motion nicely, but as usual, it tends to burn the image a bit, a tight little bit. And we have a compensation. While we do not have 4K 60 frames per second, we have 4K HDR. So that's it. In the end, if you stick to 4K, you're going to get excellent colors, brightness, clarity and focus. And I feel that sometimes we got reds which are too vivid. So once again, an upgrade from the Xperia 1. I would put this between the Zenfone 6 and the OnePlus 7 Pro, which is an excellent phone if you're doing the filming. Okay, one more video here. Totally content with it. And in the end, I would also like to mention that the video quality, while good, it's below the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. Now let's see the low light. We actually have a lot of videos here as well. Okay, so low light, I was surprised. I was expecting a compromise. I've seen a lot of flagships messing this up. I'm talking about even the big ones, which have problems with low light video capture. Not this one. Let's show a better one once again. This is a low light video capture. So the microphone handled the music around me pretty okay. The strong wind had caused some problems with the microphone. Decent colors, decent stabilization, actually good stabilization. This is low light scenery, not bad at all. And it can also handle the strong lights of a building facade pretty well. Many phones would be confused by the flashing lights in total darkness, so not that bad. And this one here, a bit of a tougher test. As you can see, the street light halos are bigger. I'm betting on the ultra wide filming here, not very sure of it, but anyways, even if it's so, it's still pretty impressive. So one thing to remember is that the Xperia 5 fixes what was wrong with the Xperia 1 camera wise. It upgrades the camera by about 20%, maybe even 30%. It can compete against the OnePlus 7 Pro, which is no small feat. Now it's time to talk about the connectivity and all that. So I'm going to access for starters Chrome and show you our lovely website and the virtual keyboard. This is the website, loaded up pretty fast, and the keyboard knows a bit of swipe. On the connectivity front, things are pretty straightforward. We don't have an audio jack. We do have the almost got me. USB Type-C port at the bottom, and we also have the slots here. There's no need for a SIM pin. You just pull this, the phone resets, and you can put your SIM and whatever else microSD inside. We have 4G LTE, we have Wi-Fi A, B, G, and AC, Bluetooth 5.0, GPS and GLONASS, and also NFC. Since we're tackling connectivity, I also have to mention calls, and when it comes to the calls, I was happy with the clarity and the volume, but the voices lacked the depth of the bass, so that's something to remember. Not a lot of depth and warmth to the voices. We also did a bunch of speed tests, and we have them all here, with some pretty solid results if you ask me. Wi-Fi got as high as 356 megapsecond in downloads and 25.7 megapsecond in uploads. 4G 209 megapsecond downloads and up to 50.5 megapsecond uploads. I would say these are typical flagship values, very high. On the OS front, there's nothing new to say that hasn't been said about the Xperia 1 software. Sony was revolutionary back in the day. They brought the latest Android. They did that twice in a row, if I remember correctly. Oreo and Android Pie arrived first on a Sony, pre-installed. Not this year, it's a OnePlus. There's no trace here of Android 10, it's Android Pie, with a pretty close to stock look. We got the Google dedicated area, we got this set of widgets, most of them stock, some of them associated to apps like Netflix and NewsSuite and all that. For multitasking, you swipe up and you see the collection of apps in this carousel, and of course you can do a bit of split screen if you really want to, but there's another level of split screen, this one here, dedicated for the screen with preset apps. We got Chrome and Maps as one of the examples splitting the screen in two. You can actually do a bunch of presets so you can easily interact with it better, like YouTube and Chrome and Maps and so forth. And as usual for a Sony phone from the past year, if you double tap close to the side, you should trigger the side sense with your bunch of shortcuts. And finally, I know how to use it, haven't done a tutorial. It also matters if you swipe down or up from the side, and if you do a quick double tap, the aim is to tap as close to the edge as possible, not as close to the screen as possible. Anyways, still a gimmick. Now, as far as the fingerprint scanner is concerned, I keep pressing it, it's here on the side, and to be honest, not the fastest in the world, but pretty accurate. And at least it vibrates to tell you that it's been activated, and the screen offers a nice effect. But once again, I wish it were a bit faster and also a tad more precise. Too many attempts, try again later, so you have to enter the pin. So I could say that I've seen better on other phones out there, and as you can see me struggling right now, not recognized for some reason. Okay, that's about it about the fingerprint scanner. We also have the always on display, you can put a sticker on it, and we also have the Xperia Assist, we have digital well-being, but those are things you can find in the settings department. Apps and notifications, sound, storage, lock screen and security. Xperia Assist is this one here with tips for your new phone. There is the digital well-being and parental control, so you can keep tabs on your child or on your usage of the device. Other than that, it's basically stock Android, to be honest. You saw the multitasking, you saw the drop-down, notifications and quick settings. This is a rather sober approach, not a big fan of it, but doesn't change the experience very much. Okay, so mixed feelings about the fingerprint scanner placement. I'm betting that the next Xperia will have it in the screen. Not very happy with the power button here. And as far as the apps are concerned, you can check them out here. There's quite a few of them. We got the PlayStation app. We got the Game Enhancer, which will have special options for your gaming experience. So you can record your gameplay sessions in Full HD if you want to, and show a floating icon and all that. That's the gaming department. We got the Cinema Pro app. We got the Imaging Edge Mobile, which is used for, from what I know, editing photos or something like it. There's Outlook, there's Calendar, AccuWeather, the Google package, 3D Creator and Movie Creator, plus the AR features, Facebook and Netflix in the mix, Amazon apps, and also a bunch of tools, including news and booking.com. So a bit of bloatware, yes, but there's also a lot of storage. Now I guess it's time for the verdict for the Xperia 5. I still haven't figured out why they call the Xperia 5 after the Xperia 1. So on the Pro side, it's a comfy and sexy looking phone with a pretty crisp screen and a strong performance as the benchmarks have shown. At the same time, it's got a loudspeaker at the bottom and it's 20% better than the Xperia 1 in the camera department, photo and video. It's actually one of the low light champions of the year, top 5 for sure. It's IP68 certified, it offers a solid battery life and also very good connectivity in speeds. Pretty nice ultra wide capture and nice Cinema Pro app if you know how to use it, plus a stock-ish interface close to pure Android. Those are the pros. On the cons, the backside draws a lot of fingerprints. It's one of the most slippery phones out there. It's got a poor top speaker compared to the bottom speaker. The fingerprint scanner placement and the power button, they're not very inspired, they're not very comfy. And at the same time, the vibration system is a gimmick, side sense is a gimmick, and well, the selfie camera could be a bit better. We don't have the audio jack here, and the headphones have to use a special adapter. Camera interface is a bit laggy at times, I found, especially with the AI features. Unimpressive zoom compared to other phones, and Android 10 would have been nice. And also lack of 4K 60 frames per second video is a bit of a bummer. So it seems that Sony got this one right, but they're also offering here a peculiar phone, 21:9, quite narrow. People are comparing it to a remote control, but at least the camera is now better. Solid battery, solid screen, and at least one of the speakers is solid. It's made for media consumption, media production with the photos, and Sony really needs to get rid of the gimmicks. They have to get rid of the side sense, they have to get rid of the vibration system. They really need to make a solid, good phone, more bare bones phone, get rid of the special apps, the creator and all that, and just make a good phone with good hardware. We know you got it, and maybe try not to offer the same hardware on two phones in 1 year. So this is from gsno.com. A good phone. If I were to pick between the Xperia 5 and Xperia 1, I would pick the Xperia 5 in a heartbeat. It's more comfortable and it doesn't need the 4K because, to be honest, didn't use the 4K all the time. This is about it from gsno.com. This has been the review of the Sony Xperia 5. Bye bye.